how do I ask a doctor their political stance without asking them? Because quite frankly, as a trans person, I don't, for multiple reasons, do not trust a doctor that voted for Trump. And I'm in a very red area, and I need to know how do I ask it without asking? How do I get around them being like, no, we're not wanting to get political, yada, yada, yada. From professionals, I would love to hear how I should go about that. Because I'm going to be beginning with new doctors in this next month, and I need to know how to ask and how to appropriately get with somebody who I know is going to take care of me, because I don't trust them.
This person is literally building a strategy just to see a doctor safely, and that sentence should haunt you. Not how do I find a good doctor, but how do I find one who won't use my identity against me? That's not a patient. That's someone doing a threat assessment before a medical appointment. The MAGA crowd screams, "Government out of my doctor's office," but is completely silent about this, because their version of medical freedom never included her version of safety. Practical tip: LGBTQ plus health center directories, Planned Parenthood affiliates, and telehealth platforms exist for exactly this reason, because unfortunately her fear is completely valid.
Good morning, everyone. I have some more breaking news for you. Trump's VA just gave doctors the power to deny care to veterans based on their politics or marital status. Yes, you heard that right. According to a bombshell report by The Guardian, VA hospitals across the U.S. have quietly removed protections that used to ban discrimination based on things like political affiliation, marital status, or even union membership. This means individual VA staff, including doctors, nurses, psychologists, and social workers, can now legally refuse to treat a veteran if they find out they're a Democrat or single. These changes came directly from a Trump executive order issued on January 30th. The VA claims all eligible veterans will still get care, but they admit staff can now deny service based on personal characteristics, not protected under federal law.
Bro is out here dropping bombshells in his morning news voice, and every word is landing. Staff can deny service based on personal characteristics not protected under federal law. That's not a mistake, not an oversight. That's deliberate legal architecture built quietly, slipped in while nobody was reading the fine print. And the people it hits hardest? LGBTQ plus vets, female veterans, veterans in rural areas with one nearby VA and zero alternatives. You don't get to put a yellow ribbon on your truck and nod along to this. Pick one.
Critics warn this could hurt LGBTQ plus vets, female veterans, and anyone who lives in a rural area with limited access to care. Dr. Arthur Kaplan from NYU calls the move unethical and political interference in medicine. This is a direct attack on medical neutrality and veteran dignity. If you or someone you love has served, this should terrify you. Speak out, share this, follow for more updates.
As a combat veteran and a legislator, I'm furious. Because according to reporting from The Guardian, rules put in place under the Trump administration are allowing VA doctors to refuse care to veterans based on their personal beliefs. It's not just unethical, it's a disgrace. When we wore the uniform, we didn't pick and choose who we protected. We served everyone, and the care we receive after service should be no different. If this reporting is accurate, those responsible have no place in the VA system or the U.S. government. Veterans deserve to receive the dignity and care they have earned instead of judgment and abandonment. We cannot tolerate this, not in Kentucky or anywhere else in the United States.
You don't get to wrap yourself in the flag, call yourself a patriot, and then decide some veterans deserve care based on their voter registration. A soldier doesn't check party affiliation before pulling someone out of a firefight. A doctor shouldn't check it before prescribing medication. If that distinction is too complicated for you, you don't belong in healthcare. You barely belong in a functioning democracy.
If someone's political views changes how you treat them, you do not belong in healthcare. Joking about giving children less anesthesia based on their parents' political views is not okay. Refusing to give anesthesia or pain medications based on somebody's political views is not okay. I didn't stutter.
In today's installment of news coming out of the US that you can't believe is true, Trump has made a new rule saying that VA doctors don't have to treat Democrats or unmarried veterans. And this rule will apply to a whole host of medical professionals, including doctors, dentists, therapists, psychologists. Can you imagine being refused treatment because you're not married or because of your political affiliation? What I'd like to know is, how did we get here? Why is this where we're at in the US in 2025? This has to be one of the most asinine things I have heard from this administration, and it takes a lot at this point to shock me. But this is an entirely new low.
Can you imagine being a veteran, coming home carrying everything that service does to a person, walking into the one place built for you, and being turned away because someone doesn't like your politics or your relationship status? And the people who built this policy are the loudest ones at veteran appreciation ceremonies. Support our troops as long as they vote correctly and have a spouse. Otherwise, figure it out yourself, hero. The cognitive dissonance isn't even hidden anymore. They just stopped caring if you notice.
I don't usually do this, but I wanted to give a shout out to my channel members and my subscribers on YouTube, as well as my followers and subscribers in all of my other platforms. I really appreciate you guys, and you have no idea how much you motivate me and help me keep my head in the game when crazy things are going on in the world. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to you guys for helping me to keep going, both monetarily and through the motivation of knowing that you guys are going to be a part of this beautiful community. So thank you. All right, so I was thinking about the video that I had seen of the last moments of Alex Preddy. There was one video in particular where the lady who was shooting the video kept rolling after Preddy was down on the ground. And she kept rolling for quite a while. And you could see what was kind of happening with that situation as she was still filming. One thing I noticed is that when the frozen rejects started to approach the body again, they started kind of rolling him over. At first, I thought that they were just trying to check and see if he was still alive. Maybe try to get him in a better position to get a pulse or something like that. And then I realized who I was thinking about and scratched that. Another thing that I heard was that somebody yelled out that they were a doctor. It was kind of muffled in the background, especially with the lady who was filming still kind of screaming. But I thought I heard that somebody said that they were a doctor. Well, I was not going crazy because there has been a doctor that did a sworn deposition. And in that affidavit, they said that they are a doctor and they witnessed the whole thing with Alex Preddy. And he went over there after the firing stopped to see if he could administer first aid. First of all, W's to that doctor. That doctor had just witnessed like 7 people put 10 bullets into one man and still went over there with a duty to help that man in the midst of those people who intended to unalive that man. W's doctor. So according to the doctor, he did rush over and he asked to go and help the man, but they didn't let him help right away. They wanted to see his physician's license, which is not something that doctors usually carry around.
She's reading this affidavit out loud, and I need everyone to actually absorb what she's saying. This doctor watched 10 bullets go into one man and still ran over. That's someone who took their oath seriously when it actually cost something, and they stopped him to check credentials. Meanwhile, according to the affidavit, they were counting bullet holes instead of checking for a pulse, not looking for signs of life, counting entry wounds. That detail tells you everything about what the priority was in that moment, and it wasn't the man on the ground. W's to that doctor. Absolute W's.
Like, they will barge into somebody's house without a warrant and say that they don't need one, but then they need a physician's license for someone to go and save a life? Okay. Now, what I saw on that video with them moving the body, the doctor actually confirmed. The doctor confirmed that they were moving the body and the body was actually on its side when they finally pat him down, checking for other weapons, and let him through. Having a victim like that on their side is not standard practice. Usually, standard practice would be to see if they are breathing and start administering CPR. But the doctor said that it seemed like the frozen rejects were more concerned about finding bullet holes in his body rather than actually administering first aid. So apparently they were trying to count the bullet holes. Now this, of course, was in his sworn affidavit. Now Pam Bondi had offered Minnesota a deal, and she said that they would remove the frozen rejects from Minnesota if Minnesota agreed to hand over the information of their voter rolls in 2020 and 2024. What the hell does information about the voter rolls in 2020 and 2024 have anything at all to do with the frozen rejects violating the Constitution? One literally doesn't have anything to do with the other. But the Bone Spurs administration is acting like this is a hostage deal. They have their list of demands before they can relieve people from being unalived in the street by federal agents. Minnesota Secretary of State, Steve Simon, pretty much told Pam Bondi to go kick rocks. He said in a statement, as an answer to Pam Bondi's request, for the voter rolls of 2020 and 2024, the answer is no.
She just laid it out perfectly, and I cannot add a single thing. Give us your voter rolls from 2020 and 2024, and then we'll pull the agents out of your streets. That's blackmail. Full stop. Minnesota's Secretary of State said no, clearly, publicly, without flinching, and that is what spying looks like. Write it down, because that data isn't being collected out of curiosity, it's being gathered now, so the infrastructure for doubt exists before the midterms. Lose seats? The rolls were manipulated. Same playbook, different year, and they're not even being subtle about it anymore.
He pretty much said that Minnesota has had free and fair elections, not only in 2020, but also in 2024. And he is not giving up the voter roll information to Pam Bondi in exchange for them getting the frozen rejects out of Minnesota. Pam Bondi is literally trying to blackmail them into giving them their voter roll information by holding their streets hostage. And senators like Chris Murphy are basically saying that the only reason why Pam Bondi is doing that is so that the Bone Spurs administration can start now sowing doubt on the midterm elections in 2026. Because they know they're about to get trounced. In every special election that there has been a massive swing toward the left. Bone Spurs is literally trying to sue the New York Times because he doesn't like the polls that are coming out of the New York Times. Because his numbers are absolutely sinking in the polls. To the point where he can't even lie about it anymore. Try as he might. So they know that they are going to get trounced in the midterms. They know that they don't have the votes or the seats to be able to stave off what is coming if the Democrats retake the House and the Senate. So they are going back to the old they stole it playbook and are starting now trying to sow seeds of doubt. So when they lose all of those seats, they can try to have a paper trail sowing doubt in the election so that they can try to overturn the election in the courts. That is what they are trying to do with that. And it's funny, somebody had told me in the comments, and I don't know whether or not this is true, I have to actually look into it, but it would track. Somebody told me that they heard Bone Spurs took Maduro so that he would say he helped Biden cheat in 2020. You know, I wouldn't put it past them to do something like that. But that'll be another video if I find out that that's true. Either way, the Republicans know that consequences are coming. And this upcoming election is literally the last chance they get to hold on to power long enough to subvert any type of punishment. If they lose the upcoming election, so many things could happen if Democrats have the spine to do it.
She's connecting dots that a lot of people are still refusing to see. Every special election has swung left, the polling is collapsing, and the response isn't to change course, it's to preemptively discredit results before they even happen. That's not a political strategy, that's what you do when you've run out of legitimate ones. The people who spent years screaming about election integrity are now the biggest architects of election uncertainty. That's not irony, that's the plan. Flood enough doubt that accountability becomes impossible. Stay registered, because apparently that's exactly what terrifies them.
Hey everyone, I'm really sorry for the way I look. I'm down in Arizona, as you can tell, and I'm not used to the heat. I have been writing to my congressman after the decision by the United States Supreme Court regarding dual citizens and Kilmore Abrego Garcia. My children are dual citizens. They're international adoptees from Colombia, but they're also citizens of the United States. We are actually residents of North Dakota. I wrote a very kind and thoughtful letter to both of my senators, as well as my congressman, Julie Fedorchak, and the governor of North Dakota, Kelly Armstrong. I got form letters back from everyone, and I got the last one back today, even though I wrote the original letter back in March. And I will post the letter that I received that basically said that everything that President Trump is doing is right, and she refused to, every single one of them, Hoeven, Kramer, Fedorchak, and Kelly Armstrong refused to say that they would protect dual citizens, including international adoptees from Colombia, from being deported. When I called the congressperson, Julie Fedorchak's office, and I asked to speak with her, they would not let me do that. And when I talked to the staffer, she accused me of using foul language with her, which I did not. And I said, what language did I use that was foul? And she said, you're being disrespectful. And I said, being disrespectful isn't illegal and it's not foul language. You are lying. And she hung up on me. So please make this go viral. If you are an adopted parent and you have children from a country that Trump doesn't like, they are refusing to say that they will protect those kids. My children have lived here for over 20 years and barely speak Spanish. So I hope that everyone that is an adoptive parent sees this and votes these people out of office. They have got to go. They are coming for our kids.
Guys, you're going to want to hear this shit because a pregnant woman in Tennessee walked into her OB appointment excited and ready to get prenatal care just like anyone would be. Except this time the doctor turned her away. Why? Because she's not fucking married. This isn't a headline from 1952 either, guys. This just happened. And the doctor cited religious beliefs as the reason. Because under Tennessee's new Medical Ethics Defense Act, providers can literally deny care based on whatever moral or religious code they claim to follow. And listen, I really don't care what imaginary friend you talk to at night, but when your fucking beliefs start putting someone else's health and safety at risk, it's no longer faith, it's negligence. Because we are letting people in lab coats now, licensed by the state, by the way, deny pregnant women care because of moral discomfort? Because she wasn't married? That's not medicine, that's sanctimonious bullshit. You're telling me that she had to drive to another state to be treated like a human being for prenatal care? Because some guy with a white coat and a Bible decided she wasn't worthy enough?
Bro is genuinely furious, and honestly, same, because listen to what he just described. A pregnant woman excited for her prenatal appointment turned away because she wasn't married. Not because she couldn't pay, because of her relationship status. And under Tennessee's Medical Ethics Defense Act, this doctor was fully protected for doing it. The MAGA crowd that screamed, "My body, my choice," about masks is completely unbothered by a licensed physician using state law to decide a woman's worthiness for prenatal care based on her ring finger. Freedom of religion means you practice your beliefs. It has never meant your beliefs get to become someone else's medical emergency. Not once. Not ever.
And look, like I said, I don't fucking care what your beliefs are, but I am allowed to believe this, that denying someone health care because of their relationship status is insane. And frankly, I'm not going to pretend like it's not rooted in fairy tale nonsense, because that's exactly what it is. This woman was punished because of someone else's religion. And that is the exact opposite of freedom. Freedom of religion should never mean forcing others to suffer because of it. They're your beliefs, not everyone else's. If your religion lets you turn away a pregnant woman, it's not a religion, it's a weapon, and people are waking the hell up to it.
The Trump administration is testing conversion therapy by medically experimenting on trans people in prisons. You heard me right. Under a new policy, the approximately 2,200 trans people currently being held in federal prisons will be denied access to medically necessary healthcare, subjected to constant misgendering by staff, and have their gender-affirming items, like bras, binders, and makeup, confiscated. Instead, the policy will designate gender dysphoria as a mental illness, imposing a treatment that targets psychological distress through talk therapy and psychotropic medications like antidepressants until the person can, in its words, make a recovery. This is conversion therapy. For one, trans people don't recover from gender dysphoria, as that isn't a clinical term associated with trans healthcare. Rather, dysphoria is alleviated through social and medical transition. Saying it can be recovered from is a common conversion therapy talking point. The Bureau of Prisons, which oversees the federal prison system in the United States, also implies that this new policy was developed because of changing medical standards, which is false. As if that wasn't enough, the policy also makes no exceptions, something that is in sharp contrast to the 2024 Florida policy that the Trump administration copied word for word in many places. This means that these omissions were entirely a conscious decision. Thus, under the policy, all 2,200 trans people in federal custody will be subjected to conversion therapy until it works, until they are released, or until it breaks them. They are given no feasible alternative, either submit or suffer alone.
She's keeping her composure delivering this, and I genuinely don't know how, because what she just described is devastating. Conversion therapy in federal prisons as a documented test run with electronic outcome data to produce proof that it works. On 2,200 people with nowhere to go, no way to refuse, no option except break. The UN classifies this as torture. The research showing it causes suicidal ideation, PTSD, and severe depression exists, and they've seen it, which means proceeding anyway isn't ignorance. It's a decision about whose suffering is acceptable. That's the thread through this entire video, from the trans woman afraid of her own doctor, to stripped VA protections, to the pregnant woman turned away. To this same sentence every single time. Some people deserve care, some people don't, and MAGA just keeps writing it deeper into law.
And because the treatment outcomes for each patient will be electronically recorded, it will allow the Trump administration to produce proof that conversion therapy can work. This is unfathomably harmful and dangerous. Conversion therapy has been shown to lead to an increased risk of suicidal ideation, depression, and PTSD, and is considered torture by the United Nations. Now, the Trump administration is going to impose that onto trans prisoners as a test run. That is extraordinarily horrifying.
MAGA promised greatness. What it's delivering is a healthcare system with a loyalty test at the door. Trans patients, veterans, unmarried mothers, inmates, all learning the same lesson. Care is conditional now, and the conditions are political. This isn't about faith, it's not about freedom, it's about power deciding who counts as a person worth treating. Medicine doesn't get to work that way. The moment it does, it stops being medicine. Comment below, is there a floor to this? Because right now I genuinely cannot see one. Like, share, subscribe. This has been Mind Mirror. Stay awake.